What's up guys, it's Ethan here. Today I'm going to do a deck profile on this Tearalaments deck featuring Aqua monster with some fusion effects from the graveyard. This deck functions pretty similar like the Like Swans and also Shadow. Why I'm saying they are like the Like Swan because they each of the monster have some sort of built-in milling effects, and Shadow because each of the Tearalaments cards you get to activate their effects when they are being sent to the grave by card effects. There's a tons of playstyle for this deck, and I opt to go for I rely on milling with the sacrifice of hand trap counts because I'm playing a higher amount of Tearament cards. Yeah, I know now that all the decks are being overshadowed by Spike, which is the current tier 0 deck in OCG, but I think this deck shouldn't be slept on because it's pretty powerful. Without further ado, let's get started with the deck profile. Starting off with the monster, we have 3 Rhino Heart, 3 of these Meru, 3 of these Euphanes, and 3 of these Shelin. And this happened to be the male and 3 female with level 2, 3 and 4. As you can see, I'm playing all of it at 3 copies because as I mentioned earlier, my focus is to rely on milling. Rhino Heart, this is your main normal summon. Upon normal or special summon, you get to foolish a Tearalaments monster. Obviously you want to foolish any of these, and when they are being foolish, you get to prop their fusion summon effects. So this is one card starter. Notably, it is a warrior, so you can search it off from Rota, and something to keep in mind is that it's a water attribute, unlike all these chicks right here, they are dark. And the second effects of Rhino Heart is that when it's sent to the grave by card effects, you get to revive it back, but you need to ditch a Tearament's card from your hand. Alright, and then you banish it when it leaves the field. Alright, off to the main Tearament's monster. Recorded level 2, 3 and 4. So level 2 is this is like your secondary normal summon because upon normal or special you get to mill 3. Yeah, all of these chicks right here, they have a effects where you mill 3, but under different conditions, and 3 of them share the same effects where you get to fusion summon when they are being sent to the grave by card effects. For their fusion summons, you shuffle back materials from your field, hand or grave, including the one you activate. Means like if you normal summon Rhino Heart and you foolish this one, when you activate its effects, you need to shuffle back herself in order to perform the fusion summons. If she ever got DD Crow, you can't resolve it. Alright, back to their effects. Mirror 3 upon summon, very basic. This one here is like a hand traps because whenever your opponent activates a monster effect on the field, you get to chain on top of it, and then you special summon herself and mirror 3. So this card allows you to fusion summon during your opponent's turn, notably when you go second, and you get to fusion summon and start to interrupt your opponents with fusion monster. And then lastly, Shelin, she can special summon herself by sending one monster from your hand to the grave. So keep in mind that don't confuse it with Rhino Heart. Rhino Heart requires you to send a Tearament's card from your hand, while Shelin requires just a monster from your hand. I would say Shelin's the best, and then followed by the level 3 and level 2, because first of all, it's level 4, you can go into some rank 4 plays with Rhino Heart, and then with this and another Tearament's monster in your hand, you basically can go off with the fusion effects. So we need to play like at least one of each, because once the first one got DD Crow, if you happen to play different names of Tearament's monster, you get to throw out milling, you can pro-ops their effects and then perform fusion summon again. So basically you can perform like 3 fusion summon in one turn, given that you have the sufficient amounts of materials. Or 3 of them being dark is very nice because of Branded Fusion. You can send it off Branded Fusions if your Rhinoheart ever got Imperm or what. So Branded Fusion synergize well with this deck. And then the one thing about this deck is that your ideal endboard is to summon out Vinda. So obviously we need to play Shadow Monster. And these are the 3 best Shadow Monster, I believe. This one gets you a free draw, which is always relevant. This mirrors off another Shadow Monster, and while Wendy spell summon another Shadow Monster. This is huge because they bring up another Shadow Monster, which means that you get to summon out 2 Winda, which is pretty absurd. So these 3 are the best one. And then lastly, one Fallen of Elbats because you are playing Branded Fusion. 1 is enough because you can shuffle it back if you happen to mill it off from your Tearament's cards effects. And then lastly is the hand traps. I'm playing 1 Ogre, 2 Velo, 3 Ash and 3 Maxi. Maxi and Ash are self-explanatory. 2 Velo and 1 Ogre. Ogre is for Spike. So I have 9 hand traps over here. 12 if you consider this one as a hand traps. We couldn't fit in more than that because all the slots are dedicated to all these monsters. Alright, up to the spell. For the 1-ups, I'm playing 1 Terraforming, 1 Instant Fusion and 1 Foolish Burial. Terraforming is mainly to search off your Tearament field spell. Instant Fusion is broken in this deck. I will carry it when I go to my extra deck. Foolish Burial is very versatile. You can send off any like Shadow Monster or Tearament's monster to prop their effects. And then 2 Kobai, well, because this deck kinda loses to a lot of hand traps, notably Ash, Veiler, DD Crow, Dimension Shifter, but not Maxi because you can just like summon out 1 future monster and pass. So this one of the nice thing about this deck is you can play around Maxi. And then obviously 3 Branded Fusion and 3 Tearament's field spell. Branded Fusions, you'll be sending off Elbats and Tearament's monster most of the time. The field spell, which is very OP because it has 3 effects. The first one is that upon activation, you get to search off a Tearament's monster, just like Magical Meltdown. And then the second effect is that all your Fusion and Tearament's monster gains 500 attack. This means that your Rhinoheart is over 2k, your Vindar is 2.7k, which Prankatops cannot run over. 500 is a lot. And then lastly, I'm playing 4 traps, being 3 of these continuous traps and 1 Subterra Successions. I'm only playing Tearament's Select. This negates monster effects. I know most of the lists play the Meta Noise, the Book of Moon, because it sends off a Tearament's monster from your deck to the grave, while this one kinda like goes net 1 because it requires you to send a Tearament's monster from your field to the grave. But actually, because as I mentioned, my focus was on the milling, and when this card is being milled, you get to search off a Tearament's monster, which is very huge. And being a continuous threat means that you get to negate like every turn, which is nice. And lastly, 1 Subterra Successions. This gets you a Shadow Monster, which means this and any of the Tearament monster gets you a Winda. And then this card just set back itself, so which means you can like activate it every turn. Right, some notable mention was the Mario of the Shoal. I'm not playing that card because it acts like just another copy of Rhinoheart. And also Fusion Deployment. Your main target for Fusion Deployment is also Rhinoheart as well. Going second, you can consider to summon Fallen Elbats. I don't play that card because like if your opponents are familiar with this deck, they are surely keeping their Ash on this card. They just let your Fusion Deployment to go through and then like just negate it on your Rhinoheart. It's still a free monster, which is not that bad, but I just couldn't find space for it, so I'm dropping that card together with Rota. So let's get right up to the extra deck. Alright, for the extra deck, obviously you need to play one of these Play-Doh Heart and then two of these Kikalos. This is your main monster to go to of your Tiarament's effects, because upon special summon you get to search or foolish a Tiarament's cards, and then her second effect is that you can target one monster on the field, special summon one Tiarament's monster from your grave or hand, and then send the targeted monster to the grave. And then third effect is that when this is being sent to the grave by card effects, you get the meal 5, which is a lot. Being a level 5, which means you can summon it off from Instant Fusion. And because Instant Fusion destroy your monster during the end phase, so you get to pro-ops their third effects as well, which is the meal 5. Play-Doh Heart is broken because it floats. Keep in mind this card cannot be used as a fusion material. When this is being special summons, or an Aqua monster is being sent to the graveyard by card effects, while this guy is on the field, you get to target one card your opponent controls and shuffle it back to the deck. This is, although it targets, but it doesn't destroy, so it plays through a lot of immunity. And the reason I say it floats is because if these cards are being sent to the grave by card effects, you can special summon this card, and then if you do, you send one Tiarament's card from your deck to the grave. Your opponent might want to think twice before popping this card. And then we are playing 2 Vinda and 2 Dracostaplia. These are the two main fusion monsters we end up with. Dracostaplia is very relevant. Aside from the monster negation effects, it turns your opponent's monster to level 1, which means it shut down Splight. The reason we want to play 2 is that we want to perform plays like we want to shuffle back 1 to summon another copy, because if we only have 1 copy you can't do so, like shuffle it back and then summon it back. That's illegal. And then if you want to go big, you can also summon 2 Dracostaplia on the field, or even 2 Vinda, which is doable, depends on what you mill. And then for the branded engine, I'm playing 1 Albion, 1 Abyssal, 1 Lopelion and 1 Mirror Jade, 1 of each. Keep in mind that Abyssal gets you instant fusion, which is huge. For 2 of these, you're most likely going into Lopelion because you want to send off Dark from your deck, and then Mirror Jade just being Mirror Jade. And then the last 2 monsters was the Mud Dragon and also the Millennium Eye Restrict. The Eye Restrict is mainly like to protect your branded fusion, or going second you get to break your opponent's board. These can only be summoned through instant fusion because I'm not playing cards like the King of the Swamp. Mud Dragon of the Swamp, this guy has quite an important role in this deck. Firstly, it's a level 4, you can summon out through instant fusion and then overlay into rank 4. And secondly, this card is mainly there to allow you to shuffle back your Fallen Elbats, because its fusion material requires 2 monsters with similar attribute but different type. Attribute as in dark, because you want to shuffle back your Tiarament monster and then Fallen Elbats. This is how you recycle back your Fallen Elbats. There's a pretty interesting implication is that it gets to protect. You can like summon it up first and then declare dark. And then lastly, the 2 non-fusion monsters, which is the Time Thief, Redoer, and the Dark Charmer. The Dark Charmer is generic because most of the monster is dark, and you can go into this very easily to summon out your opponent's Mirror Jade, or even summon out any level 4 monster and then overlay into rank 4s. It's just nice to have because everyone is playing dark monster. Redoer, this is your main monster going to if you ever got shut down by Dimensional Burial, or even your Rhino Heart guard Ash, and then your Shelling doesn't mill any stuff, and then you can just overlay into this. Its XE material doesn't send as a cost, it only sends to the grave while you resolve its effects, so keep in mind that if you detach Shelling off from this, is considered as sending off to the grave by card effects, so you get to pro off Shelling's effects. You can definitely also consider to play like Abyss Dweller or Baguska, and also Selene with SS Kotoko. There's a lot of options. So that's it for the main and extra deck. Let me cover some of the tricks I would say for this deck. First off, if you ever open up with Rhino Heart as the fail spell, try not to search off any monster first. Try to go into Rhino Heart first and see whether you got edge or what, and then only followed by the field spell to search off some specific monster. Secondly, keep in mind that this field spell can destroy your own monster, so you can potentially pro-op your own Tiarament's monster effects, and then you get the fusion summon. The next thing I want to point out is that since we are playing Binda, so throughout milling, there will be time you mill off tons of Tiarament monsters, so try not to summon off Binda on your first fusion summon. It might block you off from flooding up with other monster. So for your ideal opening play is obviously Rhino Heart sending off any of the Tiarament's monster. Depending on what you have in your hand, you send those that currently is not in your hand. Like for example, if you hold this one in your hand, you just send off this or this one. And then back to the ideal opening play is that you can send off and then fusion summon into Kikalos and then search off the continuous trap and call it a day. But if you want to go big, especially going second, you can like effects to mill off and then search to summon Kikalos, and then you search off the Meru, and then you use the effects to target yourself and then summon Meru, send this card to the grave, and then you chaining 1, chaining 2, which allows you to mill 8, which is kinda explosive. So as I mentioned, our main target is going to Binda. There's a couple of ways to bring out Binda, like for example through Foolish Burial, or through milling, or through Branded Fusions. One thing you can do is like, if you want to go into Binda, you can just mill off your shadow monster first. And then only you activate Branded Fusions so that you can mill off Elbots and any of the Tiarament monster, so that you can end up with Mirror Jade and Binda. So you might ask like, for Randy, what do you use for summons? So you always wanna go into Beast because the draw 2 ditch ones can pro-op your Tiarament's monster effects. Yeah, so that's it for the deck profile. I'm sure there's still something missing that I didn't cover. Feel free to comment down below on like if you have any other thoughts regarding this deck, on how should we actually play it, or if you have a better deck list, feel free to share. This deck is very fun because of the random factor. Because since you rely on milling, so your combo is not linear, and this also causes your opponents to not know where to interrupt. I recommend you guys to try it out, and then let me know how you guys feel about it. Yeah, I think that's pretty much I would like to cover, and yeah, let's wrap up this video right here. See you guys in the next one. Bye.